Waitress pushed into pool, one millionaire's amazing act revealed, turning laughter into heartwarming transformation. Emily stood behind the counter of the Rusty Spoon, her favorite diner, ready to pour another cup of coffee. The smell of pancakes and sizzling bacon filled the air, wrapping the room in warm nostalgia. At 28, she was used to juggling long shifts, caring for her ailing mother while raising her two younger siblings. Today was Saturday, the town's biggest night, and she wore a smile, a beacon of optimism in their small Midwest world. The diner, a hub for summer festivities, buzzed with laughter as locals gathered for the charity event honoring local veterans. Emily darted between tables, her hands steady as she served slices of apple pie. But there was a shift when Victor Harrington strode in, flanked by his entourage. The air felt heavy with the contrast between his flashy suit and Emily's worn apron. He was the kind of man who wore privilege like a crown, utterly unaware of the struggles right before him. As the laughter grew, Victor, in a moment of immature revelry, pushed one of his friends into the nearby pool. Everyone howled. It was all in good fun, until he turned towards Emily, aiming to impress. "Let us see if the waitress can swim." With a shove that felt more like fate than folly, Emily tumbled into the water. The splash startled the crowd into silence, and for a moment, the laughter faded, replaced by gasps and whispers. Soaked and shaking, Emily resurfaced, droplets glistening in the twilight. Mortified, she pushed her hair back, fighting tears that stung her eyes. But even as her heart raced with humiliation, the warmth of dinner conversations whispered something deeper. The moment became electric. Eyes that once followed Victor now turned to her, a hard-working woman who carried the weight of her family on her shoulders. "Did you see that?" an old man murmured. "That poor girl." A woman nearby scoffed, "What a waste of a good opportunity for him to show some humility." Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Days passed, and instead of fading into the background, Emily became a symbol for the town. Patrons rallied, creating fundraisers, each dollar a testament to her resilience. The Rusty Spoon, once a mere diner, transformed into a sanctuary for community action. Victor, on the other hand, found himself wrestling with regret. The laughter had been the first layer of a richer, more uncomfortable truth. What had started as a careless joke unraveled to reveal the stark contrasts in privilege and struggle, transforming the fun night into a catalyst for change. With every passing moment, the diner's pulse grew stronger. Rumors of Emily's compassion echoed throughout town, while Victor felt an unfamiliar weight of shame pressing down on him. Restless nights turned into long reflections. He wondered if he could and should redeem himself. As he watched the community unite for Emily, the laughter turned into resolve, and the question lingered in the air: could a man like him truly bridge the gap between privilege and humility? And what would it take to transform laughter into lasting friendships? As Emily continued to juggle her responsibilities, an unexpected clash loomed on the horizon, igniting a story of compassion, understanding, and redemption that was just beginning to unfold. Emily stood at the Rusty Spoon, her uniform still damp from the pool, but her spirit was soaring. The event that had humiliated her had sparked something unexpected. The community rallied behind her in a way she never imagined. The diner felt alive, filled with new energy and a sense of togetherness that brought warmth to her heart. Families gathered around the tables, sharing laughs and stories, and every slice of pie served was a reminder of their unity. As Emily refilled cups of coffee, she noticed the way people glanced at her with respect and admiration. It was a stark contrast to the pity she'd briefly felt after the fall. In that moment, she realized something profound: her struggle wasn't just her own, it was shared among many. Back in the corner, Victor sat with his elbows resting on the table, his head bowed slightly. The party atmosphere continued around him, but he felt worlds apart. The laughter of his friends stung like a reminder of his own recklessness. Every glance towards Emily burned in his conscience. As he lifted his gaze, he caught her smiling at a group of eager children, their faces smeared with whipped cream and laughter. An idea flickered in his mind. He could make amends. He should. But how? The thought of approaching her unnerved him. Would she even accept anything he had to offer? Would the town turn on him just as easily as they had rallied for her? Meanwhile, Emily was oblivious to Victor's turmoil. She felt a newfound sense of purpose. With each charitable event and fundraiser, she was creating an impact that echoed louder than the splash of water that had once humiliated her. That night, she had taken a plunge, yes, but it felt as if she had also taken a leap into a more significant cause, taking care of her community. As days turned into weeks and events grew in size, Emily organized a charity marathon to benefit veterans, hoping to raise funds for housing and health services. It quickly became the talk of the town. She envisioned a night of inspiration and history, gathering everyone to honor those who had made sacrifices. That seemed enough to fill her hearts with joy and pride. Just as the date approached, Victor's resolve grew stronger. He took a deep breath, put on his best suit, and decided it was time to step into the arena he had once ridiculed. That day, he walked through the diner's doors with an unusual sense of purpose. The atmosphere quieted as all eyes fell on him. Laughter and conversation seamlessly faded into a tense stillness. Emily noticed him immediately, her heart pounding. Could it be that he was here to apologize? Should she be open to that chance, or was it too late? "Emily," Victor called out, his voice wavering but clear. "I want to talk." Her friends exchanged glances, each one holding their breath, unsure of how the encounter would unfold. Emily felt the weight of her choices. She could turn away, protecting herself, or she could face him and embrace the uncertain path of understanding. The room held a collective breath, waiting for what would happen next. Would they find common ground amid their differences, or would the division grow wider? As she met Victor's gaze, determination blossomed inside her. "Then talk," she replied, standing tall and ready to confront the past while leaning into the hope of a renewed future. And just like that, the possibility of redemption hung in the balance, revealing the tumultuous path ahead that could lead them both towards a deeper understanding or a chasm too wide to cross. What would they discover in the midst of their truths? Victor took a slow step forward, the wooden floor creaking under his weight. He could feel the eyes of the diner on him, scrutinizing every movement. His heart raced. This wasn't just about him anymore, it was about Emily and the community that had rallied behind her. The energy shifted, an electric charge of anticipation hanging in the air. "Listen, I know what I did was wrong. I never meant to hurt you," Victor started, his voice barely above a whisper. He could see her expression change, just a flicker of uncertainty. He took another breath, forcing himself to be steady. "I was stupid, selfish. I thought I was just having fun, but I didn't think about the impact it would have." Emily kept her eyes locked on him, her expression unreadable. The murmurs around the diner faded and fell into a silence that surrounded them, everything else blurring into the background. He felt exposed, raw under the weight of her gaze. That he glanced around, his friends watching from a distance, their faces mixed with concern and curiosity. "I'm really sorry, Emily. What I did was thoughtless, and I know you've been hurt because of it. It shouldn't have happened. You deserved better." She opened her mouth, closed it again. Words seemed trapped in her throat, struggling to escape. It felt like dancing on a tightrope, balancing between everything they had been and everything they could become. "I appreciate you saying that," she finally replied, her voice steady despite the storm of emotions swirling inside her. "But it's not just about the apology, Victor. You're part of what hurt me, and I need to think about how this changes things." Victor nodded, accepting the truth of her words. "I get that. I want to show you that I can be better. I want to help with the marathon. Please let me be part of something good for once." Her eyes narrowed slightly, gauging his sincerity. Why do you want to do this now? After everything? He took another step, closing the space between them. Because I want to change. I can't undo the past, but I can learn from it. You've inspired me. I've watched you bring everyone together after the way they treated you, and I wish I could have been part of that from the start. There it was again, that weighty silence, stretching like an elastic band ready to snap. Behind them, the chatter had faded further, but the weight of community loyalty pressed down on them both. Emily considered. You will really need to prove that. This community is not one to forgive easily. Victor's voice grew firmer, determination lining his words. I will. I'll bring something tangible to the table. An event, a fundraiser, anything you need, let me help you with it. Just give me the chance. Emily took a breath, feeling the spotlight of the diner start to dim. Her heart raced not out of anger or fear, but something else entirely, hope. All right, she finally said, her voice just above a whisper. Let us make a start. But if you flake out, I won't hesitate to call you out on it. Her brow furrowed slightly, a warning and an invitation all at once that he nodded, relief washing over him. I promise I won't let you down. The crowd began to relax, muttering amongst themselves. The tension began to lift, and slowly, laughter started to find its way back into the diner. Emily felt a strange warmth, perhaps it was forgiveness, or maybe just the anticipation of new beginnings. As Sunday's marathon drew closer, hope intertwined with the fear of vulnerability. On the night of the charity, minds would be changed and hearts tested. But in that moment, beneath the lights of the Rusty Spoon, the chance for something monumental lay at their feet. But would Victor be able to endure the challenges ahead? Or would the past come back to haunt them both in ways they never anticipated? The days leading up to the marathon were a blur for Victor. Every morning, he found himself at the Rusty Spoon, brainstorming ideas with Emily. She had a vision for the event, one that transcended just raising money. It was about building a bridge back to the community, a way for people to come together despite their differences. Each time they collaborated, Victor felt the old walls between them start to crumble. But with every moment of hope, Victor also felt the weight of uncertainty. Could he really pull this off? As they pored over the details, a community-run 5K, a bake sale, live music, Victor became more aware of the skepticism in the air. Emily had been hurt deeply, and while she might let him in, the community's eyes were still trained on him, ready to judge and remember. Here, I made a list of things we need. Emily said one afternoon, sliding a paper across the table. Victor took it and studied it. Okay, I can handle the marketing for our sponsors, he replied, already calculating his budget in his head. What about volunteers? Emily hesitated. We need real commitment. Some people might not want to work with you yet, Victor. Her honesty bit at him, yet he appreciated it. I understand. I'll talk to them. I can ask around, get my friends to help. As he left the diner, he felt a mix of determination and dread. Would his friends back him up? Or would they remind him of who he once was? That evening, he gathered Ryan, Jake, and a few others at a local park. Their laughter echoed into the early dusk, but Victor felt more nervous than ever. When the conversation shifted to the marathon, he took a breath. Guys, I want your help, but I need to talk about something first. It's about Emily. The laughter faded, and they exchanged glances. Oh boy, here we go, Ryan blurted playfully, but Victor pressed on. I messed up, big time, Victor admitted, the words tasting bitter. But I've been working with her on this charity event. I know I've got a lot of making up to do, but I want to prove I can change. Change, huh? Jake raised an eyebrow. Nice to hear, but why now? Because I want to do something meaningful. I want to help her and make it right for everyone. I need your help. Ryan leaned back on a park bench, thoughtful. Okay, but what if things flop? What if people don't show up? He could feel his stomach churn. Then I'll take responsibility. Just trust me for once. I need all of you on board. After a long pause, Jake nodded slowly. All right, we'll help. But you better not screw this up. Their chuckles brought a wave of relief to Victor. The buzz of excitement wrapped around him like a warm blanket. That night, as he fell into bed, he envisioned a sea of faces at the marathon. The joy, the laughter, the sense of community, it all surged within him like a tidal wave. But just as quickly as it came, the fear crept back. Could he truly keep his word? Time ticked by rapidly, and soon the day of the event arrived, the air electric with both excitement and anxiety. Vibrant banners streamed across the town square, smiling faces filled it, and the air buzzed with activity. But in the pit of his stomach, doubt churned. Would he step up when it truly mattered? As the marathon began, he noticed Emily at the start line, a picture of determination. Their gaze locked as the first gunshot echoed through the crowd. This was more than just a race, it was a turning point for both of them, one that could either heal the wounds of the past or rip them open even wider. Victor bolted forward, but the weight of his past lingered like a shadow. Would it follow him every step of the way? As he ran, the rhythm of his heart echoed louder than his footsteps. Each breath pulled him forward, stronger and more intent. The real marathon was just beginning, and they had a long way to go. But just ahead, amidst the excitement, a familiar face in the crowd caught his eye, bearing an expression he hadn't anticipated, one that left a knot in his stomach and a question lingering in the air. What did they know that could change everything? Victor's heart raced as he continued running, the pounding of his feet echoing against the pavement. The voice in his head grew louder. He recognized that familiar face. It was Sarah, his childhood friend, someone who had once looked up to him. The smile he used to see in her eyes had been replaced with a frown, dark clouds pooling where sunshine once radiated. He had hurt many people, but seeing Sarah like this made it painfully real. She was an innocent bystander to his mistakes. Just then, a rush of energy surged through him, fueled by embarrassment and also an unyielding desire to show her that he had changed. Victor. Emily's voice called out, breaking his spiral of thoughts. Focus. He glanced sideways, catching her encouraging nod. She ran alongside him, her presence grounding him as they charged forward through the throngs of cheering supporters. The atmosphere was electric, yet Victor felt more scrutinized than ever. Each cheering voice became a reminder of the skepticism he had felt. Victor. You got this. Someone shouted from the sidelines. He recognized one of his old teammates, and despite the overwhelming focus on his past, there was an overwhelming sense of encouragement surrounding him. The thrill of community was powerful. Perhaps the fear would loosen its grip soon. As they approached the halfway mark, Victor spotted a group of former classmates. Laughter erupted from their corner of the crowd, but it was different this time, not the mocking laughter he remembered. It was genuine. Victor glanced at Emily, who was already smiling broadly, catching the vibe. See? She said, panting but radiating positivity. They're here for us. A moment of hope broke through. Maybe this was the turning point he dreamed about. Real change was possible, not just for him but for the entire town. But as the race wore on, fatigue set in. Victor's legs screamed, breath came in harsh gasps, and insecurity flickered in his mind like a dimming flame. Would they keep cheering when they learned who he really was? Just then, he felt a tap on his shoulder. Hey! Victor! We need you over here. It was Ryan, waving him over as he ran by. Victor blinked as the warmth of support washed over him, igniting something deep inside. They weren't turning their backs, they were standing by him. He pushed through, invigorated. Let us go, man! Ryan cheered. For a moment, it felt like old times, their playful rivalry pushing him even harder. Each step felt lighter. With renewed vigor, he lengthened his stride, determination fueling his pace. As they entered the final stretch, the finish line glimmered ahead, an altar of hope and redemption. He could see Emily and Sarah standing near it, both beacons of different layers of his journey, each representing what he had almost lost and what he wanted to gain. But then, as his heart swelled with anticipation, a commotion erupted from a nearby tent. Victor glanced over to see a small crowd gathering. A figure stumbled back, and with a splash, someone fell into a nearby pool set up for the marathon's festivities. Laughter bubbled up from the crowd, mingling with gasps of surprise that he froze, heart racing. What had happened? Could this moment, so full of promise, twist into something chaotic and frightening? Overwhelmed with curiosity and a twinge of fear, he veered off the course. He had to see this for himself. But as he dashed toward the chaos, he couldn't shake the feeling that the event was about to take a turn he never could have anticipated. Would this moment bring the community closer together, or would old wounds start bleeding again? Just as he reached the tent, he heard the laughter echoing once more, but this time, it carried an air of uncertainty, a reminder that joy could shift into turmoil in an instant. What was waiting in the chaos that could change everything once again? Victor elbowed his way through the throng, drawn by a mix of curiosity and concern. The laughter that had filled the air only moments earlier now felt jarring against the chaos. As he neared the tent, he could see a commotion, a young waitress, drenched and sputtering, her uniform clinging to her skin. The crowd's eyes sparkled with a blend of mirth and apprehension. "Get her a towel!" someone shouted, their voice barely cutting through the laughter. Victor's heart raced anew, this time not from the thrill of running but from a budding urge to help. He halted just short of the tent, unsure. Then he spotted Sarah's worried expression, her brows knit together, contrasting sharply with the laughter surrounding them. It was one thing to see her pained, this time, he couldn't ignore the need to act that he darted forward. "Hey, are you okay?" he asked the waitress, kneeling beside her as she wiped water from her eyes. The smile she tried to muster was shaky, and Victor felt a flicker of anger at this seemingly harmless prank that had spiraled out of control. Just a little surprised, she chuckled weakly, her voice high-pitched as she glanced back at the small group of wealthy patrons, their laughter now sounding sarcastic rather than genuine. Victor could see their faces lit up with delight at the spectacle they had inadvertently created. "Are you serious?" he muttered under his breath. This was supposed to be a joyful event. Suddenly, Ryan appeared at Victor's side, still breathless from the race. "Dude, what happened? Is she alright?" "Not really." Victor's frustration deepened. He gestured toward the group of onlookers, whose laughter had dimmed as they began to realize the girl's discomfort. They shouldn't just stand there laughing. Without thinking much, Victor stood up and turned to the crowd. "This isn't funny. You all think it's a joke, but she's upset." At first, a silence fell over the crowd, confusion flickering in the eyes of those who had been merrily laughing only moments ago. Slowly, the initial shock began to melt away, replaced with a ripple of guilt. Victor felt the weight of their gaze, a powerful reminder of the scrutiny he had been facing since the start of the race. "Victor!" Emily's voice splintered through the noise, and he turned to find her weaving through people, her face punctuated with concern. "What is going on?" "They think it's hilarious," he said, gesturing again toward the patrons. "But look at her." He pointed back at the waitress, who was now wrapped in a towel someone had finally brought her. The richer members of their community were beginning to look uneasy, their laughter replaced with nervous glances. One of them, a tall man with a golden watch gleaming on his wrist, stepped forward. "It was just a little fun, no," Victor cut in firmly. "It's not fun for her." The crowd began to murmur, voices rising and falling like a tide. Energy shifted. The laughter that had accompanied the initial fall felt hollow now, more like a cover-up than a celebration. Victor felt encouragement swell within him, the sense of community he longed for didn't have to revolve around hollow laughs. He could feel something budging, every gaze and every whisper brought an opportunity to bridge gaps he had long thought unpassable. "Do you need any help?" Emily asked the waitress gently, kneeling beside Victor. There was a newfound softness in her eyes, an empathy that mirrored his own emerging resolve. "I'm okay," the waitress managed, but a flicker of gratitude glimmered behind her eyes at their kindness. "Thank you, really." Suddenly, as if struck by a bolt of inspiration, Sarah approached, her smile tentative but growing as she joined them. "How about we finish this race with kindness?" she suggested, glancing at Victor. "I mean, how about we turn this into something positive?" Victor's heart leaped. That was the kind of change they all needed, something fierce yet pure enough to rise above their past mistakes. But just as he felt a sense of unity starting to form, a shout pierced through the tentative conversation coming from across the field. "Hey! Is anyone going to help us clean this mess? We need some volunteers." Victor's mind whirled. They had a chance to shift this community from mere spectators to genuine participants. The path to change had opened, but it wouldn't be easy. He could feel the weight of responsibility gather as he exchanged glances with Emily and Sarah, a silent agreement forming. What would happen next? Would they pull together in true solidarity, or would they dissolve back into factions? The echo of laughter still lingered, but for the first time, Victor sensed a different momentum building. Would they embrace the challenge and transform their community from a place of playful cruelty to one of genuine compassion? He took a deep breath, preparing for whatever uncertainty lay ahead. Victor knew he needed to take action. This was a moment that could define what their community stood for, and he couldn't let it slip away. He turned to Emily and Sarah, determination simmering in his chest. "We can't just stand around. Let us help." Sarah nodded eagerly, her earlier hesitation now replaced with a fiery resolve. "Right. We need to get people motivated to pitch in." They approached the shouting volunteer with purpose. Victor's heart raced, adrenaline mixing with hope. He spotted an old friend, Jake, standing near the refreshment table. If anyone could rally the crowd, it was him. "Jake!" Victor called out, waving him over. Jake's brown hair was slicked back, and he wore a smile that melted away the second he noticed the tension in the air. "What is going on?" he asked, eyebrows knitted together, darting nervously between Victor and the affected waitress. "Things got out of hand. She needs help, and we should make this right," Victor said urgently, gesturing back at the trembling waitress who was recovering slowly but still visibly shaken. Jake's expression shifted to one of understanding. "All right, let us do this." He clapped his hands, stealing attention from the crowd. "Hey everyone! We've got some cleaning up to do. Let us lend a hand and show our support." The chatter quieted again. Faces turned, uncertainty flickering in their eyes. Victor held his breath, praying someone would step forward. Moments passed before a few hesitant hands started to raise. One by one, more voices joined, calling out their willingness to help. "Let us show some community spirit," Emily shouted, her voice ringing out with infectious energy. "Who's with us?" Encouragement erupted like a spark. The crowd began to move, driven not by guilt, but the need to make a difference. Victor felt relief wash over him as others grabbed paper towels and cleaning supplies, rushing toward the mess that he turned back to the waitress. "What is your name?" "Lisa," she replied, her voice steadier now. "Thank you so much for everything." "Of course, Lisa. You're part of our community, and we've got your back." He offered her a smile, and she returned it, shyly at first, but then with growing warmth. As the cleanup commenced, laughter began to echo again, but it was different. It was the laughter of camaraderie, not mockery. They shared anecdotes, they joked about the race, and even started sharing snacks from the refreshment table. Victor felt the tension begin to lift as bonds formed over the desire to do better. He glanced over at Sarah with a grin. Her smile practically beamed back at him, and for the first time, he felt hope blossom. They could build a stronger community, one that thrived on kindness instead of cruelty, but just as they turned a corner, a loud voice cut through the chatter. "Seriously, who thought this was funny? You think a little cleanup will fix it?" It was the tall man with the golden watch, pushing through the crowd with a frown. The laughter dimmed, replaced by an uncomfortable hum. Victor's heart sank again. It wasn't over. This was just the beginning. Would they stand firm against this negativity, or would it undo all their hard work? With renewed determination, Victor stepped forward to face the crowd, feeling the weight of this moment pressing against his chest. You all laughed earlier, but look where that got us. Can we keep moving in the right direction, or are we going to let one voice pull us back? His words hung in the air, the tension palpable. Would they choose kindness, or would they fall back into old habits? Victor took another deep breath, ready for whatever came next. The transformation was just starting, but he knew he had to fight for it. Would they emerge stronger, or would they falter like so many times before? The silence was intense, broken only by the sound of scraping chairs and restless whispers. Victor's heart raced. He had laid it all out there, but would it be enough? The atmosphere felt electric, charged with a mix of hope and doubt. He focused on the crowd, searching their faces for a sign, then, a small voice piped up from the back. It was Kelly, the school librarian. I think we can do better. She called out, the fire behind her words igniting a flicker of courage in the others. Victor saw heads nodding, faces shifting from reluctance to determination. Let us stop this from happening again. We're better than this. Kelly stepped forward, her voice steady, and that simple statement resonated through the crowd. As if on cue, another person stepped up. Yeah. Let us show Lisa that we care. Shouted Danny, a local high school athlete. His enthusiasm was contagious, and that small crack in the doubt spread through the group like wildfire. Victor felt a swell of pride. This was it. This was the community he knew was there. Come on, folks. Emily joined in, her voice ringing like a bell. Let us get together, and let us show kindness, not just today but every day. It starts here. Slowly, people began to move, some reaching for supplies, others forming a line to comfort Lisa. Each gesture layered over the hurt, reinforcing their resilience against negativity. Laughter returned, but this time it was rich and full, creating bridges instead of barriers. Victor took a moment to watch. He saw Sarah and Jake crack jokes with Lisa, trying to bring out her smile. He watched as people from different corners of the community came together, old friends, neighbors, strangers. They worked side by side, setting the tone for what they wanted to stand for, but just as they found their groove, the tall man in the golden watch moved closer. His frown deepened, and Victor sensed he was about to make an issue out of nothing. What are you guys doing? Playing house after a silly incident? It's a disgrace, he sneered, arms crossed defiantly. Victor stepped up again, fists clenched at his sides. No, what's disgraceful is treating others with disrespect, he countered, unwilling to let this man's negativity loom over the hard-earned joy they had created. We're standing together, learning, growing, and lifting each other up. The crowd murmured, uncertainty creeping back. Isn't that what community is about? Victor continued, feeling the weight of his words. It's about having each other's backs, not tearing each other down. He could sense some in the crowd respond to his passion, the tide gradually turning. The tall man scoffed, his bravado faltering. He was outnumbered, and the crowd was no longer just passive observers. They were participants, lending their voices, lifting their spirits. Suddenly, Lisa stepped forward. I just wanted to thank all of you, she said, her voice trembling but strong. This means so much to me. Tears glistened in her eyes as she beamed at the group. The moment was palpable, filling the air with an electric connection. Victor looked around, heart swelling. He could see the colorful banners waving in the distance. They were not just cleaning up a mess, they were creating a movement, a testament to something greater than a single event. But just then, another voice pierced through the gathering murmur. What's this all about? You think a few cheers and speeches will really change things? It was a woman, stepping forward fiercely, her expression demanding attention. Victor turned toward her, adrenaline coursing through him. Who was she? What would she say next? Would their efforts be challenged again, or was there a chance to turn this moment into something even bigger? Victor took a breath, ready to respond, knowing that this fight was far from over. The woman stepped closer, her presence commanding. Her voice rang like a bell, cutting through the hopeful atmosphere. As if applause and empty promises will shield us from reality. You think kind words can erase the pain that has been caused? Victor felt the crowd tense up again. Her words struck like a lightning bolt, the sudden chill falling over the warm moment they had built. For a second, the joy felt fragile, as if it might shatter under the weight of skepticism. Who are you to say what can heal us? Someone from the crowd shot back, their own defense ringing with a mix of anger and protection. Victor saw them bond over their shared belief in the power of community. The woman rolled her eyes, unimpressed. I speak from experience. I've watched people stumble and fall time and again. You think just because you cheer up a few folks, it'll change the course of things? We're just patching up wounds that need deeper care. Victor could feel himself heating up, fighting back frustration. And what would you suggest? That we sit back and do nothing? That we should give in to despair? She stepped forward, fury and sadness melding in her gaze. I've seen too many good intentions crumble. What you see here is just band-aids, not solutions. The murmurs grew louder. Some nodded, relating to her skepticism, while others shifted uncomfortably, clinging onto the spark of hope Victor had ignited, now flickering away in the face of her doubts. Seeing the uncertainty rise again like a tide, Victor took a moment to center himself. So tell us then. He called out, his voice steady. What do we do? What is the solution that's better than unity and support? Her gaze softened, just for a moment. But then it hardened again as she opened her mouth to speak. You need to face the truth. Not everyone wants to be lifted up, and sometimes we need to lift each other whether we want it or not. Kelly interjected, stepping up beside Victor. We need to keep trying. If we don't show that love exists, we're just letting hate win. The tension hung heavy, a mixture of frustration and hope brewing. It was clear that the wall built by the woman's words was strong, but the foundation of empathy was stronger. Victor could see the willingness on many faces to challenge their own doubts. That he took a deep breath, locking eyes with the woman, hoping connection would break through her walls. Our actions today aren't just about feeling better. They're about creating a community that stands together. It's about making sure no one feels alone. The shaking in the crowd began to settle as people exchanged glances, their determination growing. Slowly but surely, they began to shift their focus back on the shared goal of compassion and understanding. Let us not just hope, let us act. Danny added in, his enthusiasm powered by their collective energy. We can start workshops, outreach programs. We can keep the conversations going beyond today. Victor felt the tide of optimism begin to swell again. He glanced at Lisa, who was still watching with hopeful eyes. The woman crossed her arms, momentarily stalling the advancements. You can try all you want, but how long until you grow tired of it? Until it sticks. Victor replied fiercely. Until it becomes our way of life. Silence hung in the air, heavy with mixed emotions. Would they be able to translate this conversation into actionable steps? How could they turn this moment of inspiration into lasting change? Victor looked out at the faces before him, both eager and doubtful. Their willingness to stand together ignited something deep within him. They could do this. But what challenges lay ahead, and that woman hadn't backed down yet. What else could she reveal that could shake their resolve? The air around them pulsed with unanswered questions and a gathering strength. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the crowd, Victor felt the tension in the air shift. The weight of the woman's words hung heavily, but the flickering embers of hope were slowly fanning into a flame. He knew they were at a crossroads, a moment that could either fracture their community further or strengthen it beyond their wildest dreams. Don't you get it? Victor's voice rang out, charged with urgency. Hope is what drives us forward. We can't just sit back and expect it all to change by itself. The crowd around him began to murmur in agreement, the undertones of uncertainty slowly replaced with a growing determination. Lisa stood off to the side, towel still wrapped around her, her eyes brightening as she soaked in the shifting atmosphere. This moment was more than about her, it was about something bigger, something that resonated deep within everyone who had gathered. Maybe we should start forming groups, Emily suggested from behind Victor. Her tone was measured yet infused with enthusiasm. We can tackle issues together, break down barriers, and build genuine connections across the community. Yes. Let us have meetings where we share our stories, Sarah chimed in, her eyes dancing with excitement. If we can see each other's struggles, maybe we can start to understand how to help. The woman in the golden watch took a step back, visibly shaken by the shift in energy. She had underestimated the strength of unity. The crowd's spirits were rising, fed by the determination flowing through Victor's words and Emily's encouragement. "I'm in," shouted Jake, his voice cracking through the laughter that had once filled the air so carelessly. "Let us actually do something. Let us show these broken pieces that we can pull it together again." Laughter rippled through the crowd, but it was different this time, joy mixed with purpose. Victor looked at each face surrounding him, strangers, friends, and those who had needed a moment of connection. He was no longer just running from his past, he was running toward a future with them. "All right, then," Victor said, his voice brimming with adrenaline. "Let us meet next week to discuss our ideas. I'll make sure we get a venue." The crowd erupted in cheers, their voices blending into one powerful chorus of hope. They were ready to support one another not just through cheerful words but with concrete actions and plans that would foster unity rather than division. As the night wore on, Victor and Emily stood side by side, watching the remnants of doubt drift away. "You know," she said softly, glancing at him with pride, "this is just the beginning. We're actually building something here." "Yes, and it's not just on me," Victor replied, a sense of calm washing over him. "We're in this together." He turned to see Lisa smiling, a genuine smile that worked its way into his heart. She was no longer just a girl who had fallen into a pool, she was now a catalyst reminding those around her of their duty to uplift rather than ridicule. The laughter returned, a blend of relief and joy, but it wasn't merely for the spectacle of it all. It was a celebration of the transformation that was happening in their midst. "Together, we'll keep striving," Victor assured the crowd, his voice echoing with conviction. "We'll face the hard truths, and we'll make room for every voice, every story. Because that's what it means to truly live in a community." They erupted once again into cheers, each voice a stepping stone toward redemption. The air swelled with promise, not just for an evening but for a new chapter for everyone standing before him. As the sun settled behind the horizon, a sense of peace washed over Victor. He was no longer haunted by the mistakes of his past, instead, he was surrounded by friends, families, and neighbors ready to take on the future together. From that day forward, they established a community dedicated to lifting one another up. The Rusty Spoon became a hub for compassion, understanding, and friendship. Each story shared, each hand lent, wove a richer tapestry of lives connected by kindness. In this small town, they learned a vital lesson: a life led with empathy creates ripples that resonate infinitely, turning laughter into a force for change, and proving that moments of despair can blossom into more profound connections. Victor turned to Emily, who was laughing with a group of children near the finishing line of the marathon. He knew they had transformed together, and with that affection and warmth, they would face whatever came next, shoulder to shoulder. "Are you ready for the next challenge?" he asked, grinning at her. "Always," she replied, reaching for his hand. Together, they stepped into the future unafraid and full of hope, ready to continue the journey they had begun together, and that journey? It was just getting started. You need to subscribe now to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, and comment your reactions and feelings about the ending.